evening once again, my people.
We are here
We are
once
here
again
once again live
and
and
under
under
strange
strange
circumstances, under
circumstances and
weird
now weird
circumstances.
circumstances.
And I said, let
And
me
I said,
come
let me
on
come on
this live
this
here.
live here.
So let us
So
start
let
to
us start to
talk and
talk
think
and
about
think
what
about
we are
what we
seeing
are seeing
happening before
happening
us at
before
this
us at
time.
this time.
So presently,
Presently,
now normally
normally I
do
normally
lives
do
on
lives on
Friday and on
Friday and on
Saturday.
Saturday.
But
But
with these
with these
events
events
playing out
playing
around
out
us,
around us,
everybody is
everybody is
thinking
thinking whether or not
we are
we
going to
are going
have
to have
a
a
scenario for a
scenario for a
third world
third world
war
war
that may
that may
happen
happen
at
at
any
any
time,
time,
you know,
you know,
and we
and
need
we
to
need to
take into
take into
consideration
consideration the
facts
facts
that
that
are
are
going on at
going
this
on at
time,
this time, you know.
So
So
let's just
let's just
discuss it.
discuss it.
And my
And my
son is
son is
fond of my
fond of
mic.
my mic.
Leave it
Leave it
alone.
alone.
Let's look at the
Let's look at the
facts and let's
facts and let's
discuss it,
discuss
and
it,
also in
and
the
also in the
context of
context
World
of
War
World
Three,
War Three,
because
because
I am
I am
seeing
seeing
where
where
certain
certain
people
people have
have already
already
taken
taken
steps
steps
to
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 do certain
do
things
certain
that will
things that will
affect
affect
the
the
world
world
population and
population
turn
and
this
turn
conflict
this
into a
conflict
world
into a
situation.
world
Now
situation.
let me
Now let me
back
back
up
up
and go
and
over
go
it
over
as
it
how
as
I
how I
understand it, right?
understand it, right?
Now in
Now in
2014,
2014,
Russia
Russia
annexed
annexed
Crimea. They moved
Crimea, they
into
moved into
Crimea,
Crimea,
which was a
which
part
was a
of
part of
Ukraine.
Ukraine.
And
And
the,
the,
back
back
then,
then,
Obama gave them
Obama
some
gave them some
sanctions and
sanctions
blah
and
blah
blah
blah.
blah blah,
And
and
let's get up
let's
on
get
this
some
in my
funny in my opinion,
opinion, right?
right?
And
And
from then
to
to now,
now, Russia have been doing everything in its power
to
to
develop
develop
its
its
missiles,
missiles,
its
its
tanks, its
tanks,
everything.
its everything. Oh my gosh,
This child
this
is
child is pulling my light. Don't say daddy light, please. Russia is doing everything to develop
its
its
military
military
to
to
reach
reach
the
the
stage
stage
whereby
whereby
it
it
can
can
cause
cause
problems,
problems,
right?
right?
At the same
At the
time,
same time,
Taiwan is a
Taiwan is
problem,
a problem,
similar type of
similar type
problem
of
for
problem for
the
the
Chinese,
Chinese,
also Hong
also
Kong,
Hong Kong,
Taiwan
but
more so
Taiwan more
Taiwan
so
because Taiwan
Taiwan,
have
because
a
Taiwan have
massive
a
army.
massive army.
Taiwan not a
Taiwan
massive
not a
army, but they
massive army, but
have
they have
an army,
an army,
and
and they have been training
and
and
so
so
on
on
to
to
defend
defend themselves
themselves
from China.
because
Because everybody, all these independent nations, what they want really is their own sovereignty. What they want is their own
freedom.
freedom.
That's what they are
That's what they
fighting
are
for. But
fighting for. But China,
they want
they want
to
to
back
go back
and
and
withdraw
withdraw certain maps
that
that
have
have
been
been
carved
carved
up
up now.
now.
They want to
They
go
want to go
back to a
back to a
state
state
of
of
where
what
it
it was
was
hundreds
hundreds
of
of
years
years
ago,
ago,
and
and
that
that
I
I
don't
don't
think
think
the
the world
governing bodies
governing
and
bodies
so
and
will
so will
allow
allow
that
that
to
to happen.
happen.
And I saw someone
On
posted on
Facebook
Facebook
that
that
um,
Russia,
China
China
has
has already
started to
started
put
to put
aircrafts over
aircrafts over Taiwan, military aircraft over Taiwan,
right?
right?
And
And that is an interesting development
in the
in the
context of our
context
world
of our
war.
world
Now,
war.
why I
Now,
say
why
world
I
war,
say
right?
world war,
Let's
right?
look at
Let's look at
these
these
nations
nations
that
that are not
governed,
democratically governed,
which have
which have
communism.
communism,
China is
China is
Korea
communist,
is
North Korea is communist,
Russia is more
Russia
or less
is more or less communist,
um,
um,
Belarus to some
Belarus to
extent,
some
I believe.
extent, I believe.
So all of these
So all
different
of these different
countries that
countries
support
that
Russia, they
support
have
Russia, they
all
have
sort of things
all
in
sort of
common.
things
They are
in common. They are
mostly
mostly
governed by
governed by
dictators.
dictators.
So
So
The
The
Chinese
Chinese
president
president
arranged
arranged their
constitution
constitution
so that
so that the Chinese president will not move.
right? So there's a
Right?
kind
So
of
there's a kind of autocratic dictatorship kind of arrangement. They have no real
democracy,
democracy.
right?
Right? Well, North Korea is that has been so since in the 50s, father to son, and then son going on side on the next son.
Right?
Right? Russia,
right,
which has been broken up. The Russian Federation was broken up. That is how you get um, all these different Baltic states and all these different states all around Russia, right? And some of them are socialist, some of them are democratic, but most of them are broken away are more or less democratic. It is why they want free elections and so on and so forth, right? Now, tomorrow night, I will deal with the spiritual aspect, right? But tonight I'll just look at the geopolitics of it. Right now, when you're looking at when you look at how these things are developing, it is very frightening, right? It is very frightening in terms of the way things are being ruled out. Now, in right, so we deal with China, we with North Korea, right? You have different countries like Burma and these different places that are still not very much democratic. A lot of countries that are not democratic. I'm going to search to see if I find that actual event of China taking its forces over Taiwan. It wasn't a thought. On Jan 45 flights near Taiwan's airspace. Yes, son. 16 fighters and Sukhoi S-30 fighter jets. So 150 flights. Right at China, fly 39 planes towards Taiwan in its latest sorties. That is because Russia is now doing that action in Crimea, in Ukraine. So now they are signaling, and I saw a post somewhere. I thought it was a meme, but it was actually a real thing. Where China is saying they will need Russia help to invade Taiwan. And what this will lead to, it will lead to a massive conflict. Right? That will lead to a massive conflict. And what that will lead to is like to stretch America thin. But just imagine, America want to defend Taiwan, America want to help Ukraine, although they say they're going to put troops on the ground, right? And then if something happens somewhere else.
And where is it somewhere else?
Now, last week, I posted something to my Facebook. Right? I posted something to Facebook. The guy called Samuel Stafford. And Samuel Stafford made a claim, stating not a claim, but it was actually fact. When you check it out, it was actual fact. Samuel Stafford is claiming that the US people are concerned about don't do that, Liam. Samuel Stafford, don't do that, please. Samuel Stafford is concerned that the Iranians most likely are going to come to Trinidad via I'm sure I posted it. I ain't seen it. No? Samuel Stafford is saying that most likely the Iranians may come to try to take over Trinidad via Venezuela. And some people laugh at the comment section. But Samuel Stafford would have got that information from a former US ambassador.
a
right?
former
A
U.S.
former U.S.
ambassador
ambassador
was
was
interviewed
interviewed
in
in
Miami,
Miami,
and they was
and they
stating
were
that
stating that
the former
the
U.S.
former U.S.
ambassador stated
ambassador
that the
stated that the
Americans
Americans
are a bit
are a bit
worried
worried
that the
that the
Iranians may try
Iranians
to
may
do
try to do
something in
something in
Trinidad
Trinidad
via
via
Venezuela.
Venezuela.
And at
And at
first, I did
first,
not
I
really
did not
take
really
Simon
take Simon
Stafford
Stafford
seriously.
seriously.
But when
But
I
when I
heard about
heard
that
about that
recording
recording
somewhere on
somewhere on
YouTube,
YouTube,
and I'm going to
I'm
attempt
gonna
to
attempt to
find the
find
actual
the actual
recording now,
recording now,
right?
right?
Of that
Of that
of that
of that
interview,
interview.
and that
And
is a
that is
very
a
very
very, very
serious
serious,
that is a very
that is a
very
very,
serious
very serious
statement,
statement,
because if
because
that is
if that is
so,
so,
the
the American,
The
the
Venezuelans already
Venezuelans
have a
already have a
pretext
pretext
for
for
war with
war
Trinidad
with
and
Trinidad and
Tobago.
Tobago.
Now,
Now,
we have to go
we
back
have
in
to go back in
history,
history,
many eons ago,
eons ago,
Trinidad really and
Trinidad
Tobago
really
used to be
and
part
Tobago
of
used to be part of
Venezuela.
Venezuela.
Now, because
Now,
of
because of
colonization,
colonization,
it is
it is
no
not
longer
no
so.
longer so.
All right,
All right,
and
and
because
because
we had a
we had
recent
a recent
incident where a
incident
Coast
where a
Guard
Coast Guard
officer,
officer,
whatever, had
whatever had
transferred on the
transferred
sea,
on
they
the
tried
sea,
to
they
enter
tried to
here
enter here
illegally.
illegally.
Our baby
Our
ended up
baby ended
dead.
up dead.
That is a
That is a
pretext for war.
pretext for war.
You understand? So
You
we
understand? So
here in
we here in
Trinidad
Trinidad
are not
are
far
not far
removed from
removed
these
from these
events. Now,
events.
if we are
Now, if we
seeing
are
now that
seeing now that
the
the
Chinese
Chinese
are flying
flying
missions over
missions over
Taiwan
Taiwan
because of
because
these
of these
Russian because of the
because
Russian
of the Russian
invasion into
invasion into
Ukraine,
Ukraine,
right?
right?
And now
And now
we see
we see
China now
China now
taking
taking
strength off of the
strength off of the
partner
partner
Russia,
Russia,
right? And China
right?
did
And
not
China did not
condemn the
condemn
actions
the
of
actions
Russia,
of Russia,
right? If
right?
they do
If they
that,
do that,
right? If they
right?
do that, what will happen is that the what will happen is that there might very well be a plan afoot for the Venezuelans to also grab territory. Now, the Venezuelans don't really have an issue with Trinidad so much. All we have is a cross-border gas situation. It's not a hostile situation. It's just that the Trinidadian will tap from their side, and then after a certain amount, they will turn it off, or continue to tap and sell it to process it and with Atlantic LNG and sell the proceeds to the give a percentage to the Venezuelans, however it goes, right? And now Venezuela in recent times had a big problem with Guyana. So we don't know whether or not they are going to come here or they may go to Guyana. And this may sound far-fetched, but it is very, very possible. It is very, very possible that you may find it is very possible that these things could play out. Understand? Alright, no, you can't touch it, what's the big deal? I am not finding that speech that Simon Stafford saw. And Samuel Stafford got very emotional and worked up about it. What I'll probably try and do is search Samuel Stafford and go on his page and listen to what he's saying. Right, this listening, man.
But they're not listening. The PNM government, the UNC government, and everybody not listening. They're behaving in a kind of manner that they don't understand. We need to get on our borders immediately. We need to get 300 fast interceptors. 300,000 Iranian will be invading our border soon. Or listen by free speech. War is coming. I said to all you already feel, hey, you already understand the intelligence game and the aim. Our border have to have 30 vessels on everything, and I think come. Bullet. The Iranians will disguise themselves as Venezuelans. Who would want to hear me go here? They are going to come on our shores looking like Venezuelans. And they are going to fight us and push us war. I need the military, who's an independent force. And I'm asking the President, Sir, Madam President, authorize machine gun nests on our borders immediately. Immediately. You saw that, Karen? Unless Rowley is part of the conspiracy, we need to have over, listen to me, throughout the land, based on our land mass, and we have the guns saved, over 120 machine gun nests. Hey, war is coming. War is coming. Machine gun nests. Go by penny. Build interceptors. Let children stay home and drive them interceptors with GPS. Do you know EBSL, Executive Bodyguard Service, me, was the first company to put GPS on a boat in the Great Race for people to see the Great Race? And you know, that wasn't my idea. You know. I just listened to the advice of a man called Lindsey Young. Black cockroach. I just take advice. That was Lindsey Young idea. I just had the tool to give the man the job, to give him a foot. And all that show everybody under the bus. War is coming! We need to protect the borders, because what is going to come on the shores is not Venezuelans. It is Iranians and Russians splitting off. And I'm telling all you, they are going to conquer and rule us. And if we do not protect the borders now, we are dead. War is coming. War is coming. Machine gun nests. That's all. Fast patrol boats. Benny comes young. Mr. Prime Minister. Sir, I don't support the PNM and I don't support the UNC. But I ask you, please, just humble yourself and take some advice, because we are going to end up, if we don't stop it, in a bigger problem. War is coming. War is coming. Let me put aside all of the differences. Please protect the borders, protect the citizens, and be a strong nation. War is coming, and we want to protect it. They are going to come inside from Cedros and push all the way up to Matlock. And when they do that, they are going to be killing and raping our people. All the ladies voted now.
Yeah.
Please. I don't want war.
Eh?
War is coming.
Yeah. So that is the situation. Alright? That is the situation. So according to what he is saying, he has a point. Right? He has a serious point. And sometimes people just come across a certain way and you may not want to accept how they may sound, but he has a point. It may not be to put machine gun in us, but we had to step up in some area because do you all know that Jack Warner, when he was Minister of National Security, waived the right for Russians to come here without visas? Are you all aware of that? Yeah, Russians could come in here without any visa. No requirement for visa for Russians to come here. I don't know why he did that back then, but that is a thing in China. I don't know if they have rescinded that, if they had revised that, but a Russian could come here based on his passport alone and just walk in this country. Right? A serious country like Russia, where everybody could be a this and a that, a KGB, a spy, all kind of different things. Understand? So this is the situation in the world at this time. I am of this firm belief, just like Samuel Stafford, I am too emotional about it and so on, but I am the firm belief that these socialist and communist countries will activate to put America under pressure because they perceive Biden as weak, only forgetting, and he kind of look jokey and like he had dementia and all kind of foolishness. They will activate on America because they perceive America to be weak. Right? And let us see how this thing will work out. Understand? Let us see how this thing will work out. The fact of the matter is, the world have been going down this road for some time. They have been building up these military assets for some time, the Russians, right? And the Chinese, so they have some agenda. You ain't gonna spend all that money on military for nothing, right? America spent a lot of money on military and they went in and they get oil and they set up different companies, Halliburton and all these big companies to do whatever they need for the Americans. Now, when America doing this one thing, that they may have their agenda and their rule or whatever, but when a communist state, they don't care nothing about nothing, doing the same thing is a little bit different. And just a little bit different. You see how they intimidating people in Ukraine? They flying all kind of jets, low. I saw a jet that had I saw a jet fire rocket at low, very low fire rocket. Why are you doing that? You could see from so far and fire that rocket at whatever target. They fly the drone, the jet low down and fire the rocket at the people. That is just to terrorize people so that they don't have the will to fight. And that is all I see in that is a bully. Because if somebody has a 50 caliber gun and they ring out and that plane could have crashed because that bullet could have penetrated the plane and hit the pilot or pilots, and they may not have been able to have to eject and need the plane to crash. You understand? So when you fly that plane so low, a big jet, they fly the jet low and fire rocket into some residential area that I posted that on Facebook. Right? So you're seeing where the Russians are intimidating people. Right? They are attempting to intimidate people. Right? And this is wrong. What they are doing is wrong. I never see America fire no fire no weapon at no civilians with little children screaming. You understand? With no little children screaming all over the place. That is pure intimidation going on there right now. You understand? Pure intimidation. You understand? So, here's where you reach now. Here's where you reach now. Right? This is where we reach now. Right? Watch it here on Facebook. There's a clip I'm talking about. Watch it. Watch the aircraft here. Watch the aircraft, huh? See? Now the aircraft coming here. You don't know what the rocket already. You don't know what the rocket already, watch, huh? See? That wickedness I'm doing, people. We're fighting a war. You're doing that to frighten people, intimidate people. That is all I'm doing. The wicked. You understand? So this is what these world powers have been doing to people. Right? Yeah, babe, listen. I think the massacre. I can't it. Take the tablet now, bro. I'm using it. Okay? I'm using tablet. Let me get it just almost finished. Yes, so as I was saying, the fact of the matter remains that there is a great possibility that China is stepping into the frame because I think this woman, Rhoda Barrett, already posted that China is now stepping in. Let me like now, so yeah. Leave me like now. This baby is struggling. Oh, come on, baby. Because it's still doing me right. And then what else to be live on here, right? Yeah, China is stepping up because China has issue with Taiwan, and China has a serious issue with Taiwan and Hong Kong. Hong Kong is not so much a big issue for them, but Taiwan, because Taiwan have military presence. Now what they are going to do is eventually China is going to start a step to Taiwan, and that's where another conflict is going to start. So America is going to defend Taiwan. So the American forces will again be stretched, or they will just deploy other troops there, like a carrier or two carrier group, which includes battleships, destroyers, the carrier, and submarines and so on, right? And it can be carrier group. That will in fact change the whole prospect of the globe by taking it now into a different level where it will be the communist countries against the democratic countries. Right now, tomorrow night at 8 p.m. I'll be looking on the spiritual side of this, and I have said it here over and over. Right? I just put in a plot for tomorrow night, where you will be looking at the spiritual aspect of it. This evening is just the geopolitical aspect of it, how I see it. This is just my opinion and what I've been observing, and I don't think I'm far off at all. Right? Now bringing it home, they have been saying that the Americans are signaling, apparently through their intelligence, this Samuel Stafford guy was saying that there is a great possibility Iranians will attack Trinidad and Tobago via Venezuela. Right? That's sounding far-fetched to your ears, that may sound far-fetched. But in this world where people have agendas, why would they want to overthrow Trinidad and Tobago? Right? We have a natural gas refinery here. Right? Natural gas is a big thing in the world. Look at the price of natural gas now. Natural gas is probably nearly $6. Right? For natural gas right now. Right? That is a serious thing. And it will keep going up. Right now, and the price of oil is almost $104 a barrel. You understand? So there is a significant price jump. Right? In 2 weeks' time, the price of oil have gone up significantly. Right? Which has led now to prices of things going up in America. So the price of goods and services will go up around the world. But the price of oil, the commodity, has raised. Right? So the price of the pump in America has already gone up. But they look at that system, once oil goes up, the price of the pump does go up. So this is why America does do what it do to drive down the price of oil by getting oil supply, by getting the flood in the market, so that the price of their goods and services will go down. And when in the winter time now, and they need the oil and they need the gas, that is beneficial to us because we don't need oil and gas to create heat. Right? That is what the Americans need. Right? And the Europeans especially. Because they right now they're freezing, right now it's February. And they will see spring falling a little while. Spring will come in next month. I think Easter I think will probably be when spring starts. Right? So Easter thing coming up just now. Right? So I think next month or two. February, March, April, and April is Easter. Right? Whenever Easter is when the people start to get a little bit warmer until they reach summer. Right? So that's how the thing does go. So the whole geopolitics of it is it's alright, we will squeeze them. They don't get no gas because Russia is the world's #1 producer of natural gas. Right? And Venezuela, our next door neighbor, is the world's #1 in terms of reserves of oil. So that is where And now we're seeing Guyana coming on stream now, where Guyana is already producing almost 200,000 barrels of oil per day. And at that incredible price, there's a lot of wealth being generated, although they're not getting every cent, because they have to pay taxes, and the people who are the experts who are taking it out of the ground have to pay duties and royalties back to Guyana. And from what I'm understanding, they got a kind of shaft deal because they're not refining the experts, and they are doing everything, right? So this is why it is more difficult for Guyana. But they signed a deal with an American company, right? I think it's Shell or Exxon, one of them. This guy gave me real trouble here. You can't touch that. You wanna pull on the light? Redirect. Hope you know for. Yeah. So the that deal the Ghanaians get is not really a rosy deal. And I hear the Prime Minister talking, right, in Doha, that we lose billions of dollars because of the taxation regimen that they have in place. And that is why Patrick Manning did what he did when he was in power. He came in one of them same oil meetings and he told them what all had to pay more tax. And I agree with that. And it's the same thing had to happen with the natural gas. They had to pay more tax. We had to take more of that oil revenue to stay here. And this is why they hate that's why they hate Venezuela. Because what the Venezuelan did was all they're paying tax and all they're getting the majority of the money and that oil revenue. They say, alright, socialist country, the country vote for that socialist madness. Right? So they started to take the money and give all the poor people and buy stove for everybody, and everything was nice for a little while. Right? Until they started to get sanctions. Alright, I'm going to play it back for you. Right. Until they started to get sanctions. You understand? And then the price of oil dropped. So that really thing mash up in Venezuela. You understand? But what Venezuela did, Venezuela nationalized their oil producing, I think it's PDVSA, I think is its name, their version of Petrochin. They nationalize it. In other words, they run all the expats on them, and the only put nationals to run it, so which means all the oil revenues that they get. But sorry, what the Americans did now was set them with sanctions, and that ended up crippling the Venezuelan economy, because on top of that, the oil price dropped, plus nobody taking the oil from them. And they can't export to nobody, so the oil stand up there in their hand. You understand? So this is what I think we had to reach that stage of 75% 75% nationalize our oil interests so that we could benefit from our oil revenues. Because without that, we will be suffering. Because naturally, all these expats and so, they are just taking up and absorbing all of our revenues all the time. You understand? They are just taking and going for years, and we losing billions of dollars we are losing all the time. So from that perspective, we could state that this is why the Venezuelans have fought against the Americans, because the simple fact they nationalized their oil reserves, and Americans they didn't like that. So now that the whole thing switched now, and the new set of oil they're finding now is in Guyana water, which is in a lot of oil is now in Guyanese water. And at one point in time, if you all remember, there was a big conflict. In Guyana concerning the oil, and the International Court of Arbitration was coming the free. Leave it. The International Court of Arbitration had also come in and said no, that oil is actually in Guyana's waters. It is not in Venezuelan waters, and they had a big problem with that. Yes, and they had a very big problem with that. Right? So this is the situation. So the possibility of a conflict on our doorsteps, in my opinion, is very real. Yes, and the possibility of a conflict in our area is real. It may not happen tonight, it may not happen tomorrow, it may not happen in 2 or 3 months, but eventually it may happen. And of course, Venezuela has the pretext for war with us because we killed one of their nationals somewhere in the Gulf or down somewhere in the back of somewhere down in the back Amaruga, somewhere down in the back there. They had that incident where the child lost his life, unfortunately, right, trying to enter Trinidad illegally. Yes, and so we have to keep our eyes on the ground. I think the government are trying to be rude, have to step up. It may not have to be machine gun nest, but something had to happen. You understand? Something had to happen outside the ordinary to safeguard our borders, because if they had to infiltrate, they will infiltrate them. Because remember in the 1990 coup, there was talk that they had people, strange fellas in town. And I said that was the suicide bombers. Right? They had fellas looking strange. They didn't know where they didn't exactly know, and I was waiting for people to carry them where they had to go. So apparently, when Yasin do his thing, like they had brains and specialists, you understand? To do the hard work, to do things that fellas wouldn't really do naturally in Trinidad and Tobago. You understand? Like suicide bombing and so on. So apparently they had some people from Iran or somebody from Libya or something. I remember my brothers and them telling me the Friday evening on Frederick Street and certain places there was some strange looking characters that the people could see that was not from Trinidad. You understand? That probably was here to assist with that event. Similarly, these people will come in and they will do certain activities, like attack certain installations, like you see the whole Trinidad lose power, and now everybody in the whole wide world know which line to touch which line that will cause a power outage, a national power outage. You understand? So all of these things you have to take into consideration and look at these things, because some of these things are sometimes events that are happening to see how to do this and how to do that, right? Remember, we have a lot of serious oil and gas infrastructure in Trinidad and Tobago, right? At one point in time, when Mane was in power, I don't know if it still exists now, we were exporting almost 20% of the natural gas that needs to go to Chicago, right? We were actually keeping Chicago warm for years and months when in winter time. You understand? So we here, you're looking at Trinidad small here, but here is a very, very sensitive place. Because if a big country like America, one city, a major city like Chicago, the windy city, getting 20% of its natural gas supply to keep it warm in winter time and keep their nationals happy, don't you think the Americans will have certain people here looking after their interests? And I can tell you from my experience, I was in the media for almost 9 years. And I can tell you, I have been to certain places right in town there. Right in town, I see them take over a whole floor of a hotel, and they don't take nothing from nobody. They have their own water, their own food, everything. In this room, all kind of equipment and all kind of thing. And I asked the question, I asked the journalist, I said, ask the commander down there that, why, ask the big man, why it have so many US soldiers here? Right? That was in Manning time. And then when Kamala came in power, myself and Bo Tuwari had that conversation in the diplomatic center. Understand? That same issue came up with a whole heap of American soldiers here. And at that time it had the government, the then government, a little bit uneasy. Because if they had planned to stay too long, they could have easily be taken out of power by force. I remember briefly having that conversation with Mr. Bo Tuwari. in the diplomatic center, in the office of the Prime Minister, while I was a media photographer. I broached that subject with him and I said, do you know we have 265 US troops stationed in Trinidad at all times? And he looked at me and he said, yes, we was discussing that in cabinet, and why that are so much of them here all the time? It's because we are supplying a lot of natural gas to the Chicago and different areas in America to keep Americans comfortable. So they have to seek after their own interests. There was a video clip that came up on Facebook where a periscope came up and the fisherman knows something underneath there. The fisherman knew something was there and he cut a videotape, and the periscope came up, and as it come up so, it watched and it gone back down. Because them fellas supposed to be here and not seen. So in other words, in all them oil installation out in the sea, 22 miles out in the sea there, it have vessels patrolling and making sure no sabotaging come to cut off the gas supply that is going to Chicago. All you understand how powerful Trinidad is. All you understand what time it is. And that was years ago. We have all kind of natural gas line run all about in this country. One time we go on camping somewhere down Mearu. We went by some big place. I think BP or one of them have big cage with birds in it. We hike up by that cage. And on the way to that cage, there's a massive line coming in from the sea and running. But it was on the coastline and he was walking on the beach coast. Right? And when we reached the line, they said there's a natural gas line. And it was hot to the touch. The line was hot because so much gas flowing through that line per second that it was hot. When you touch the line is about 3 feet wide. When you touch that line, the line hot. Because natural gas flying through there by the ton loads. You understand? And I take my ears and I rest it on it on the hot surface. I rest it and you hear that thing going for a long period of time. I just listening. I said, wait, look at that. And I dismissed that out the back of my head. But years after, I started thinking about it. I said, look at that. Look at the amount, the volume of natural gas that is coming in from our offshore installations. Remember, is when we discovered it's all kind of 13, I think it was, how much it was, by? 2 or 3 trillion cubic feet of gas we had outside there. It's not finished now. You understand? But it had a lot of gas. Next door in that Martin field, I think it's 13 trillion or 13 billion or something, some big number like that, is how much gas it have outside there between Venezuela and Trinidad. And then in Guyana now we have our next big set of oil now. You understand? So the name of the game is oil and gas, although the world want everybody to go green and all this kind of thing. But the people in Qatar and everything, they don't work out the maths already that oil and gas ain't going nowhere. You understand? Oil and gas is not going anywhere. You understand? And if this thing really develop and spiral out of control, the next step, because the Russia is already hinting at it, is nuclear exchanges. And if that happens, crap will smoke all of the pipe. Right? Now I'll go into that some more biblical context into that tomorrow evening. But there's a part of the Bible that states that 30% of the earth was burnt up. So we don't know if they'll have a nuclear exchange, and the Bible states 1/3 of the earth is burnt up. So we don't know if that is what that is talking about. I don't know. I'm not a pastor. I just reading and applying my thoughts to what I am reading as the Spirit will give me utterance. You understand? So we don't know if a nuclear exchange will come out. If a nuclear exchange come, there are a few movies I could point you to. One of them is a movie called On the Beach. My wife and I started looking at it, but we didn't finish it. But in that, the synopsis of that movie is there's a serious exchange of nuclear bombs between the Americans and the Chinese, and that eliminated everyone in the northern hemisphere. So Europe is dead, America is dead, China is dead, India is dead. right? Russia is dead because Russia would have joined in and all of them pelting bomb at one another like crazy. And the only people that were alive were people in the southern hemisphere. So like people all along in Argentina, Trinidad, the lower part of Africa, and of course people in Australia would have still been alive, right? But the poison from the nuclear fallout started to spread all over the world, and in a matter of 3 months, everyone was end up in that show, end up dead. You understand? So that was the gist of it. So they show you a real synopsis, and this is why if you watch the start of my lives, and you'll see it at the end of this live also, where I show clippings from movies that I've looked at, where when that radiation hit you, you're seeing your skeleton, it turns into powder, right? It vaporizes you. So a nuclear conflict is a totally different ball of fish, and it really is a really nasty thing. This is why the politicians at B have something called MAD, mutually assured destruction. So America know if they attack Russia, Russia will destroy them. That's how they have the bomb set up. It's mad. It's madness. Right? It's called MAD, the mutually assured destruction. Right? So if the Americans attack Russia, by the time the missiles are in the sky, right? Russia will do a counter-attack, try and shoot down their missiles, and they will send their own missiles now over to America, right? And they call those things ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, right? An intercontinental ballistic missile takes 45 minutes to reach its target, right? It's a rocket. It launches, it goes up in stages, so it has its main stage to go in the upper atmosphere, then it breaks off, and then there's a warhead. The warhead itself, there's the tip of the thing here, the missile here. The warhead contains like 20 tips, and some of them are decoys, right? So when them 20 coming down, you don't know how much is good, how much is real, how much is fake, and there's a strategy to use it now to overwhelm your defenses, because you could shoot it down, right? You could use another rocket now to intercept it and blow it out of the sky, but they have decoys. So sometimes they will say you only able to shoot down 5, and the 5 you shoot down is decoy. So the 15 with them sending at your different cities, right? And what those do, those explode in different cities and all kind of things. So it's a really nasty thing. And now the Russians now has gone a step further to make their nuclear, it's not ICBMs again, they're going into supersonic, right? So their missiles now are able to reach you at a much faster rate. So it's even less time. So let's imagine, the button is pressed, right? Russia realizes that America is attacking them, or vice versa. You have 45 minutes to get to a bunker and hide yourself and get your stuff in order, and that is a very short period of time to leave and run to get to a bunker to realize you could be safe from the blast and the fallout, because it's not just the blast. The blast is like when a nuclear bomb goes off, it's as if they open up the sun right in front of your face. It has melt you. You understand? The Bible talk about it in Isaiah, where it talk about the tongue will boil in the head, and the eye socket will boil in the eye. The eye socket it will burn out. If you're far enough away and that heat touch you, it burn out. Right? So what they say it does, when that heat is so extreme, over 2,000 degrees, a heat coming at you instantaneously, and also gamma rays and beta rays. Right? Now what these rays do, it causes cancer. So if the blast and the shock wave don't touch you, because that is overpressure. Overpressure will crush your kidneys, crush your lungs, and blow you apart. That is with the pressure wave. If you're close enough to the pressure wave, it will tear you apart. That is the explosion, right? That is one thing. If you could dead in the explosion, you could dead when the bomb detonates in the sky, because there's also something called a ground burst and an air burst. The air burst is more destructive, because when the air burst happen, it has nothing to stop the power of the bomb. So if you watch the video I play and in the opening segment of my live, you will see a bomb exploding, and you'll see a section of it hitting the ground. That is an airburst. You understand? So once that happens, it destroys more than if you detonate on the ground itself. Because the ground now will absorb some of that energy. You understand? There's a lot of science, and I have been studying this for a very long time. I could talk about it so fluently, right? So the airburst is unstoppable. They detonate at a mile up or half a mile up, man, and that ripping through everything, and everything in concentric circles. It destroys everything in a radius. So however big the bomb is able to carry that blast wave and that shock wave. Now when the bomb explodes initially, everything underneath that blast is vaporized, like totally poof. You turn into dust. You're gone. You understand? You remember that movie Terminator, where you see the machine walking and crushing skulls? It's because those people were a little bit off of the blast wave, so all their flesh fell off. You understand? War is hell, and world leaders knows this. So why Russia is moving like that? Because Russia know the Americans probably don't have the stomach for that, and Russia want to go down that road and show them watch we big and we bad, but Almighty God will deal with him. You understand? Because if you ride directly on that fireball, when that thing explodes, initially, in the first 2 seconds, you will be vaporized. Yes, son? You'll be instantly vaporized. You won't even find a shadow here. A matter of fact, as I say shadow, when that blast hit you, and wherever your shadow fall, it'll leave a mark. When you're vaporized, it's amazing. It's just mind-boggling. You don't even understand that force of it. Let's pray and hope that it does not come to a nuclear war, because at that stage, it's a twin, man. I'm not yet. We'll continue this tomorrow evening. I have come to the end. I've spent an hour on this live, and it's just an hour. And if you notice here, people are fleeing, and this is what I'm talking about, the nuclear explosion, sleeping underground bunkers hiding. You see that? That is what I'm talking about. Alright? Here's the destructive force of a nuclear bomb. So we don't want to reach to that stage at all. We really don't want to reach to that stage, right? This is what I'm talking about, the airburst and all that kind of thing. Right? So those of you who ever joined this evening, thank you for